Honorable members, prayers. Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee to look with favor upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in thy sight. Give thanks to the President of the Republic, endow members of Parliament and ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labors of government, this land and people may be well and truly served, and their good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. Amen. O God, grant us a vision of our country, fair as it might be, a country of righteousness from his neighbor, a country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, a country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service, and honor shall be given to the deserving, a country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire people that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the common beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honorable members, item 3, correction of votes and proceedings and official report. I have a copy of the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 2021, and we'll start with that. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7.
Page 7.
Honorable, you don't need to announce the page. You just need to be on your feet and then you catch my eye. But I have so many of you on your feet, especially the ashes. There are too many ashes in the problem. Yes, Honorable. Page 7.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name has been captured as somebody who was absent with permission. Meanwhile, I was in the chamber.
Please, can you tell us that name and then the number on page 7?
Number 1. The following
Item
3.
Page
Item
7, item 3, number 1.
Number 1.
Adam Hamza, Dr. Kumbungu.
Yes, please.
Yes. And you said you were present?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Please, answer office. Table office, sorry. take notes. Yes, Honorable.
Page 7, item 4, number 2, Abdullah Jacob Idris, Savulgu. Right Honorable Speaker, I was here.
You were also present.
Yes, please.
Please, table office, kindly take notes. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Yes, Honorable Ablakwa.
Right, Honorable Speaker, please at page 9, item number 6, the Honorable Minister responsible for health, Ajima Menu, is supposed to be hyphenated.
It is not supposed to, it is. It's a compound name, Ajiman Menu. Please, table office, take note. Page 9, yes.
Mr. Speaker, just to bring you back to page 8, number 15, the majority chief whip is on ECOWAS, Pan-African Parliament. He has brought his leave of absence, and the majority leader made it on it. But he has been marked absent. So he should be absent with permission.
Table office, kindly take note. Page, yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, please, sorry to take you to page 8. Page 8, item 7. I've been placed on the absent list. No, I was here yesterday.
Page 8.
Yes, sir.
Page,
Item 7. Hey, page 7. Item 7. Item
page 7, item
4,
4,
7. I inquire Alfred.
and that is at page 8.
Yes, sir.
Yes. You'll be marked absent.
Yes,
And you wanted us to know that you were present.
yes, please.
Okay. Table office. Honorable Ahenkwa Frederick Yao, German of, was present yesterday. Page, yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, just 8, number 23. Honorable Member of Parliament for Fansima Hayford Ophelia. She's also at the Pan-African Parliament, and the permission was sorted.
Table and take note. It's for some of these reasons that we will put in our standing orders roll call. We'll do roll call on daily basis so that we capture those who are actually present. We won't have these difficulties. Page 10. Yes, Honorable Ablakwa.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Please, item number 9 at page 10, the World Pre-Eclampsia Day. The way it's been captured here, the day is not also referred to as pregnancy-induced hypertension. It is a pre-eclampsia, which is also referred to as, but not a day. So it has to be tidied up. We could just have left it as World Pre-Eclampsia Day, which is marked on the 22nd of May each year. But the way it's been presented here is quite convoluted, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, table office, take note of the correction. Page 11. Page 12. Page 13. Honorable members, the votes and proceedings of the 5th sitting of the 2nd meeting of the first session held on Tuesday, 1st June 2021, as corrected, are adopted as a true record of proceedings. On to official reports. I have 3 copies. I should say 3 reports, starting from the 9th of March, Tuesday, 9th March 2021. Any corrections? Honorable members, in the absence of any corrections, the official report of Tuesday, 9th March 2021 is hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings. We now consider the official report of Wednesday, 10th March 2021. Any corrections? Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I just came from the mess room and picked my votes and proceedings and other people. I didn't see the official reports. And I'm just looking around, and I don't see members holding copies. Oh, okay.
Any corrections? Honorable members, in the absence of any corrections, the official report of Wednesday, 10th March 2021 is hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings. The last one is the official report of Wednesday, 26th May 2021. Any corrections? Yes, Honorable Ablakwa.
Most grateful, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, please, at column 010, the 2nd paragraph, the proper abbreviation, the proper arrangement should be DACF, the District Assembly Common Fund, and not DAF, as has been captured here. And, Mr. Speaker, the next paragraph, at that same column 010, capturing what the Honorable Minority Leader said, the Minister for Roads, it is a shared responsibility. It clearly does not convey what I was saying. I want to believe that the minority, because the Minority Leader was rather criticizing the roads minister. So either share irresponsibility or the table office or Hansard may want to listen to the audio again because what has been captured here doesn't carry accurately what the Minority Leader was saying. It cannot be, it is a shared responsibility. So there's something amiss. If it can be corrected, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, thanks so much. Table office, please cross-check from the audio recording to see what word, whether it's shared responsibility or sheer irresponsibility. Any further corrections? Honorable members, the official report of Wednesday, 26 May 2021, as corrected, represents the true record of proceedings. Item 4. Statements. Honorable members, we will try as much as possible to take as many statements as possible for today. And we have a lot of them admitted for presentation to the House. When I'm tired, my deputy will take over. Most likely, second deputy speaker, even though he's not around now. So we will start. Leadership can give guidance as to the presence or otherwise of these members. Whether we have Honorable Elvis Morris Donko present. Dr. Bachi Yelviel Baligi, the MP for Lambuse. Honorable Isaac Ajay Mensah, MP for Wassa East. Yes, please.
The Member of Parliament for Lambuse is here. Dr. Valerie. He is here.
Honorable
So
members,
he's ready to read his statement.
Honorable Dr. Baligi has a statement on resource governance and management conflicts among stakeholders of Kamba tributary and Bio forest reserves in the Lambuse constituency. Honorable member, you may now make the statement.
Most great Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm sincerely grateful for this opportunity to make the statement on a critical issue that borders on livelihood, sustenance, and sustainable and the survival of inhabitants of 7 communities, namely Samoa, Suke, Sena, Kongo, Nabala, Bilo, Bo, and Tandi for all in the Lambuse constituency. Mr. Speaker, natural resource management and governance comprises of multiple actors, of which community members are a part. Mr. Speaker, Graham et al. 2000 defined natural resource governance to include how resource decisions are taken and how citizens or other stakeholders have their say in relation to the natural resource in question and how the resource decisions affect the quality of life for both present and future generations. Mr. Speaker, the Kamba Tributary Forest Reserve and the Bango-Bawo Forest Reserve, both in the Lambuse constituency, were established in 1948 and 56, respectively, following the enactment of the first forest policy in 1948. This policy, which sought to regulate the commercialization of timber trees, was fundamentally protective and preservative, thus witnessed a massive, centralized, and forceful demarcation and reservation of forest reserves in Ghana, thereby undermined the ownership and user rights of local people. Mr. Speaker, since there was no consultation or stakeholder engagement of the sort in the creation of these forests, people whose homes and farmlands were captured were forcefully evicted and prohibited without compensation from farming, settlement, animal grazing, or collection of any resources in the forest. Mr. Speaker, alternative to this form of centralized way of governing natural resources is the community-based natural resource management scheme, which seeks to encourage the communities and other users of natural resources in the governing and decision-making processes. Mr. Speaker, the Forestry Commission, which is the agency tasked with the administration of forests and forest resources, abandons affected communities and directly affected individuals to their destiny. Mr. Speaker, to add insults to injuries, some community members were arrested and detained, resulting in their consequent abscondment from their communities. It is an incontrovertible fact, Mr. Speaker, that agriculture is the main source of livelihood of most rural households as mine. Thus, the confiscation of farmlands and subsequent prohibition of access to the appropriation of non-timber forest products from same without compensation violates the fundamental human rights and freedoms of forest-free communities. Mr. Speaker, Article 20, Clause 3 of the 1992 Constitution provides, Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence, I read, where a compulsory acquisition or possession of land effected by the state in accordance with Clause 1 of this article causes displacement of any inhabitants, the state shall resettle the displaced inhabitants on suitable alternative land with regard for their economic well-being and social and cultural values. Mr. Speaker, it is an undisputable fact that forests and forest resources, besides their economic and sociocultural benefits, primarily present enormous environmental and ecosystem dividends and well-being, most especially in the wake of climate change and variability. Mr. Speaker, since the creation of the Forest Department in 1908, there have been a series of forest and natural resources governance policies and persistent reviews of same in accordance with emerging trends and best practices. In this regard, the 1994 Forest and Wildlife Policy was amended in 2012 with a major aim of promoting and developing mechanisms for transparent governance, equity sharing, and people's participation in forest and wildlife resources management. Mr. Speaker, Article 266 of the 1992 Constitution outlines the benefit sharing formula in relation to stool and skin lands, where it indicates that 10% of all revenue accruing from these lands must be paid to the Office of the Administrator of Stool Lands to cover administrative expenses. The remaining revenues are to be distributed among the stool or skin, the traditional authority, and the district assembly. Besides, the Timber Resources Management Act, Act 547/1998, as amended by Act 617/2002, and its implementing regulations, LI 1649/1998, as amended by LI 1721/2003, embeds into timber contracts many timber-related benefits from both natural forests and plantations, and how these benefits must be allocated. Mr. Speaker, also imperative in the rules of procedure for acquiring timber utilization rights includes the social responsibility agreement, which must be signed between the local community and the logging companies. The social responsibility agreement mandates timber contractors to provide certain amenities, services, or benefits to assist the communities and inhabitants of the traditional palmacy at a cost of not less than 5% of the value of stumpage fee of the timber that is harvested. Mr. Speaker, denial of the inherent and undisputable community entitlements to these traditional lands and natural resources violates their rights and consequently generates conflicts. Also, Springer et al. 2011 contend that in situations where issues surrounding human rights and well-being are not fully understood and addressed, governing and conservation actions by authorities could result in conflicts. Mr. Speaker, tension is currently on the rise in the affected communities as inhabitants strongly feel excluded or cheated by the Forestry Commission for a very long time. The major source of conflict, Mr. Speaker, has to do with how landowners were evicted from their lands without compensation and prohibited from accessing non-timber forest products such as shea fruits and nuts, termites for chicks, herbs, other wild fruits from same, which are very fundamental to their survival. This is contrary to the provisions of Article 267 of the 1992 Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the communities have also been neglected by the Forestry Commission in the management of the resources. For instance, in 2014, Mr. Speaker, the Forestry Commission issued licenses to timber contractors who harvested rosewood from these reserves without compensation to the affected communities and persons. This resulted in a near mayhem, as farmers were aggrieved by the neglect, disregard, and insubordination on the part of the Forestry Commission. Another trigger is the name of the forest. While the Kamba Tributary Forest Reserve is located in the Lambuse district, it is named after a tributary of the Kamba River in the Lower district, where in effect there are reserves, equally renowned rivers, mountains, sacred groves, etc., that could name the reserve. Communities fringing the Kamba Tributary Forest Reserve therefore contend that the name does not imply their ownership of the reserve. Mr. Speaker, the exclusion of forest-free community members from the modified tonnage system, a scheme in which farmers are entitled to 100% of the benefits accruing from intercropping and 40% of planted tree products, puts the community on a time bomb. Project participants on this scheme were drawn from different communities to farm in the forest without regards to the landowners. The case got worse as the non-community members brought to farm in the reserve are now restricting landowners from entering the reserve to appropriate non-timber forest products in the reserve. Mr. Speaker, this cannot be right. All around the world, natural resources policies advocate for collaborative, participatory, and community resource management. Our resource management agencies in this country would have to ensure transparent governance and equitable distribution of benefits accruing from resources in order to guarantee their sustainability by encouraging collaborative resource governance. Mr. Speaker, may I suggest that the Forestry Commission and other stakeholders engage in a dialogue to redemarcate these reserves, since there was no consultation at the onset. Mr. Speaker, the Forestry Commission must also have to clearly define and give to affected communities and individuals their compensation entitlements, or allow them access to the land to till to feed their families. Besides, Mr. Speaker, landowners and community members should be the people farming on the land under the modified tonnage system. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, community resource ownership and management is the way to go, according to the communities. Without addressing the above recommendations, there will be an aggressive encroachment of the forest to permanently claim their lands that were seized without compensation. I therefore call upon this August House to, as a matter of agency, intervene in this issue to find a lasting and sustainable solution to avoid future conflicts. Mr. Speaker, as a result, prevailing conflicts over arable land, ownership, compensation, and benefit rights exist in all the communities. The communities and individuals are seeking regard for their human rights, access to arable land, and access to their lawful benefits that accrue on their land. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
members, this is a constituency-specific statement. I may allow comments, very limited comments on it, even though it's constituency-specific. It deals with a very important national issue, that of resource governance and how to manage conflicts among stakeholders. In the absence of any comment, the next statement I don't know whether Honorable Isaac Ajay-Mensah is now in. If not, we listen to the MP from constituency, Honorable Insala Wapal. Is he available? The Honorable Member of Parliament from Pandai. Not.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, please.
I don't have statement today.
You haven't filed a statement of yam farming for export in the Panda constituency of the northern region of Ghana.
You are not aware. I'm not aware. I've not filed it yet, so I don't know how.
Well, I have it here. Recommended to me by your leaders, and I admitted it. So it's here. So once it's not from you, your name is written there. So you have no statement before me. So we move on. Honorable Kobna Mensah Wayomi. A statement calling on government to pay attention for the successful Ghana's hosting of all African Games in 2023. Honorable Member, you may make the statement now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in October 2018, at the third Specialized Technical Committee meeting on Youth, Sports and Culture held in Algiers, Algeria, the Ghana delegation won the bid for the rights to host and organize the 13th African Games in 2023. An effort continued for Ghana's presidency just about 2 years away. Mr. Speaker, 3 years down the line, during the State of the Nation address, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, confirmed the formation of a local organizing committee and some progress of work they have done. However, for such an international event of this magnitude, involving 54 nations and about 25 sporting disciplines, it is prudent that the preparations of the nation to host this number of athletes and officials, totaling from 7,000 to 10,000, would be expected for the Games. Mr. Speaker, there is also the task of preparing Team Ghana for all the 25 disciplines, not only to participate but to win considerable amounts of medals, to improve the nation's continental rankings, as well as qualifiers for the 13th Olympiad 2024 from 26 July to 11th August in Paris, France.
For such a magnitude of continental games, we would have expected within the last 3 years to have been presented as Parliament with the budget of the games for our consideration, and furthermore, to preview the host nation agreement to be executed by the nation, Ghana, and the African Union Commission, the rights owners of the games, and yet we are left with about 2 years to the games. The Minister, Honorable Mustafa Yusuf, during his vetting by the Appointments Committee of the House, promised to deliver the best African Games ever in the history of the Continental Games. This is set against the pedigree of the previous host nations since the inception of the Games in 1965, and hosted by Congo-Brazzaville, 1973, by Nigeria, 1978, by Algeria, 1987, by Kenya, 1991, by Egypt, 1995, by Zimbabwe, 1999, by South Africa, 2003, by Nigeria, 2007, by Algeria, 2011, by Mozambique, 2015, by Congo-Brazzaville, and the 12th edition by Morocco. Mr. Speaker, it is my thinking that such a game is considered a national project and managed under the leadership of the Ministry of Youth and Sports. It should be considered beefing up the LOC with the requisite expertise to ensure a hugely successful Games in 2023, believing that COVID-19 pandemic would have been dealt with by then, and not to necessitate the kind of what bedeviled the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games to warrant a postponement this year, to this year, 2021. Again, in the era where every economy has placed the issue of sustainability at the fore of every project, especially sporting events, it will be prudent for the Honorable Minister to work and provide a comprehensive analysis of any expected cash flow for the facilities to be constructed for the Games. We have heard on the airwaves that the proposed new 50,000-seater capacity stadium to be used for the opening and closing ceremonies, as well as other facilities for the other disciplines, would form the basis for a new university for sports development. It will be important for the working paper for these to be submitted to the House a review. However, it will be prudent to ask what has happened to the Sports College that the same ministry has plans to develop into a tertiary institution for sports development. Furthermore, it will be important for the ministry to provide Parliament a copy of an impact assessment of the Games on Ghana's economy, especially set against the backdrop that sports is big business now, and we would wish to reap the full benefits after the Games and the years after. Indeed, that is why the original thought of using some of the existing halls of residences at the University of Ghana as the Games Village is most laudable. It is also strategic that the Games is seen as a great opportunity to rebrand schools and college sports, and also explore the possibilities of starting an all-tertiary sports games in Ghana as part of the process to unearth talent for the coming 13th African Games in 2023. Mr. Speaker, on a lighter note, it has been amongst the grapevine that the consultant who has engaged to successful work on Ghana's bid to win the rights to host and organize the Games is yet to be paid. It is prudent that this matter is dealt with expeditiously before anything untoward develops that will hamper the smooth hosting of our Games in 2023. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, the statement has been made. Those who want to make comments may do so now. Yes, Honourable. Yes.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the maker of the statement for drawing the attention of the government to the long delay in preparing for the next All-African Games in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, the organization of the Games is such a prestigious one that we should not just gloss over the towards these Games. As has been stated in the statement, we expect 54 African countries to participate in 25 sporting disciplines. This requires an enormous infrastructure for all the disciplines. We play or participate in these Games in state-of-the-art facilities. You cannot go and play volleyball on a concrete or cement floor. It has to be played in an indoor gymnasium. So, silence in the preparation towards these Games, without even budgetary provisions, is causing a lot of concern for those of us who have been in the sporting industry for some time. Mr. Speaker, apart from the 54 African countries, we expect officials from the International Olympic Committee and all the international federations of the disciplines that will be participating in the Games, as well as tourists, because these are some of the that attract tourists to a host country. Nothing, as I'm speaking, is going on at the proposed Olympic-sized stadium at Botema. Nothing is going on there. We don't even have the mascot for the Games, which will also attract international sponsors to support us in our preparation for the Games. It means that by the time we would hitting the ground running, other countries which have bidded for other international games would have taken these sponsors away from us. It is a very serious thing, and I think that even the membership of the LOC is inadequate. You need a lot more technical persons with requisite knowledge to be added to the group that is already in existence. The mascot serves as the symbol of the Games. We do not know when this will be made available. We haven't even seen the structure design of what the Olympic-sized stadium will be like. In such a situation, it means that we'll be rushed to host the games with last-minute preparations, which will not be enough to ensure the success of the games. Mr. Speaker, it is mandatory that when you are hosting an international event of that magnitude, the facilities should be available for testing and approval by the international federations. When are we going to do this? I want to use this opportunity to also appeal to the government that the land at Boatema, if we do not move quickly to the site, we may be losing part of the acreage of that land to be able to provide the facilities. With these few words, I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this.
Yes, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. And I thank the maker of the statement. Just to add that the All-African Games is a tournament that is in the heart of this government. It is a tournament that the country is ready, and the success will be a story that all of us will benefit from. I am aware that on Friday, the 4th to the 10th, the AU committee on this All-African tournament will be in Ghana to visit and inspect all and the facilities that will be used. I do agree with my colleague that the land that is secure for the village, for the All-African Games, actually need to be looked at. But I can assure him that what I do know is that government have taken this issue very seriously, and we are even preparing beyond the tournament, because it is the belief of government that after the All-African Games, the village will be turned into a university for sports. Yes, nations will be attending. Ghana, we have had the success story of hosting tournaments in the country, and it went well. It was very beautiful in 2008, the Can 2008, and government is actually taking African Games very seriously. So with that, I thank the maker of the statement, and only to assure him that all that actually raised, I'll communicate that to the minister who is just on his way here. I just prompted him about the statement. So thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, and thank the maker for the statement.
Honourable members, I direct that a copy of the statement, together with the comments of members, be submitted to the Minister for Youth and Sports. And I further direct that the Minister appears before the House to brief the House on what government has done so far towards the hosting of this very important event in Ghana. I so direct. We now move on to the third statement, who stands in the name of Honorable Elvis Morris Donko. I'm told he's now in. The Member of Parliament for Abra Asebu Komankese. Honorable Member, you may make your statement now on the 2021 population and housing census.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my surname is Donko, not Donko. So just...
Sorry?
My surname, Mr. Speaker, is Donko.
It's Donko?
Donko. But
Not
Mr. Speaker,
Donko.
you said Donko. So I just want to draw your attention. Oh, they are not the same. It's a name. My name is Donko. Mr. Speaker, my name is Donko, not Donko. Mr. Speaker, this is actually...
Honorable member, please. I just want to know the difference, apart from maybe I wrongly pronounced the name. What is the difference between Donko and Donko?
Mr. Speaker, it's a name, and I know of mine, which is Donko, but in the Akan language, Donko means a slave, which Mr. Speaker, mine is Donko. So I just want to draw the attention of Right Honorable Speaker that my name now is Donko. Oh.
Your name, to the best of your knowledge, is Donko. So what is the meaning of Donko?
Mr. Speaker, that's my name. It's just the pronunciation. It's Donko. That's what I know. So somebody might choose to be called Donko, but mine is Donko, Mr. Speaker.
So your Donko has no meaning. Honorable member, I'm sure you are a proud fan also.
Yes, Honorable Speaker.
Good. And so I know about the history, so don't worry. So you can go on.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I rise to speak on the 2021 Population and Housing Census. The 2021 PHC is a third population and housing census to be conducted and the sixth post-independence. For the first time, Mr. Speaker, the census will be reporting on number and characteristics for both population and structures at the constituency levels as stipulated by the Statistical Service Act passed by Parliament in 2019. The products generated from the census will be used for decision-making and policy at all levels of government, including for determination of budget and to guide the creation of new districts and constituencies. The Ghana Statistical Service, in consultation with the National Census Steering Committee and the Office of the President, has set the census night date as Sunday, 27th June. The scheduled duration of data collection from 28th June to 11th July 2021 is referred to as the census period when enumeration takes place, Mr. Speaker. The enumeration will be preceded by the listing of all structures, which is scheduled to start on 13th June 2021 and last for 7 days. Ghana Statistical Service, the lead implementing agency, is conducting the 2021 PHC in accordance with the United Nations principles and recommendations for PHCs conducted from 2015 to 2024, which encourages countries to practice increased use of technology in order to improve the quality of data collected and of the results to improve the quality of data collected and timelines of the results thereof. As such, this census will be the first fully digital PHC to be conducted in Ghana and will involve the use of tablets for data capture and for collection of GPS for every structure. In addition, Mr. Speaker, several methodological and technological innovations have been introduced, such as the use of an online recruitment platform, introduction of virtual trainings, and use of dynamic data quality management and the enumeration tracking dashboard for the real-time management and an enumeration for real-time management data quality management. I urge you all to visit the census website, Mr. Speaker, which is census2021.startghana.org.gh for more information and to stay updated on the census activities during this period. Preparations for the census are well underway, Mr. Speaker, with key activities completed, including the conduct of 3 trial census, demarcation of the country into 51,921 enumeration areas, identification of finalization of questionnaires, recruitment of trial quality management teams, development of publicity, education and advocacy documents, and procurement of logistics for the almost 75,000 census officials to be deployed. Other activities such as training of trainers, provision of tablets, recruitment of field officers, engagement of stakeholders, and finalization of field strategies are ongoing. On 19th April, His Excellency, the Vice President, Alhaji Dr. Mamudu Bawumia, launched the 100 Days to Census Night, a key publicity activity which was commemorated to signal to all stakeholders that the government remains committed to the census process as a priority national development program. Booster GSS continued preparation for the census and call for stakeholders and members of the public to action to support successful census taking. You count, get counted. This is slogan for the census, which is complete coverage by leaving no person and no structure in Ghana unaccounted for. Such an enormous undertaking can only succeed with our collective efforts. As such, the 100 Days to Census Night launched by His Excellency Alhaji Dr. Mamudu Bawumia marks the start of sustained nationwide publicity, education, and advocacy campaigns to mobilize the needed financial, logistical, and human resources and other forms of facilitation needed for the census exercise. As stated in the keynote, the Office of the President is committed to ensuring that the needed state resources and public sector support will be made available for the census. Members of Parliament, as policymakers and data users, are a key group of stakeholders whose strategic support is required to make the implementation a success. Specifically, the following areas of support are needed from honorable members of Parliament. 1. Work to encourage goodwill for the census. The required consistent energies on the census to be made in all public appearances to build support for the census and ensure cooperation with census officials during the data collection period. Support 2. Support census publicity, education, and advocacy activities in order to ensure complete coverage within their respective constituencies. This requires that all persons in the constituency be educated on the census and be aware of their civic responsibility to be counted. To ensure that no one is left behind, proactive citizens are required who can report that their household has not been enumerated so that follow-ups can be made with authorized census officials. 3. Mitigate the potential effect that boundary disputes and other sources of existing unrest at the constituency level may have on the census operations. 4. Mr. Speaker, promote responsible use of census data for decision-making in Parliament. It is important that the data generated from the census is put to use for the development of our country. As such, it is necessary to start advocacy for the use of the data now ahead of the census. Let us familiarize ourselves with information that is going to be collected. The questionnaires are available on the census website. Right Honorable Speaker, my information is that the government statistician has indicated his availability to provide further information on the conduct of the 2021 PHC to members of parliament, should he be invited to do so. Let's work together to make 2021 PHC a success. You count, get counted. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. This is a very important statement, and I want us to devote some time on it as part of the means of publicity and education of people. You count, get counted. Let me recognize Honorable Dafiamopo.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for counting me in this matter. Mr. Speaker, it's true that census is very important in the life of every nation. Indeed, the biblical account is that census was being conducted when Christ was born. And so, on that note, we welcome the decision by government to ensure that we get counted after the last one, which happened over 10 years ago. Indeed, the 2020 budget had a provision for the conduct of the 2020 census. But our understanding is that because it coincided with other critical programs, it had to be deferred to this year. Mr. Speaker, population census used to be a very important topic in population studies. And my understanding is that we are not just conducting population census, we are also conducting housing census to determine the number of houses in our various communities, to determine the growth of urbanization, to be able to plan and for amenities, social amenities, health facilities, and such other things. Mr. Speaker, but the difficulties that we are being told is happening on the grounds include the fact that the recruitment of personnel that will participate in gathering the requisite data for purposes of this census, some have been taken from far from the areas that they are going to work at. So, for instance, the information is that they are recruiting people from Accra to go and work in the Volta region. They are recruiting people from Accra to go and work in, say, in the Eastern. And we all know how our terrains are. We know that there are certain districts or areas, there are certain peculiar data. If you are not peculiar with the physical terrain, you will be unable to gather data. So, on this note, I want to focus on my constituency and my district in Southern. If you bring to travel to Ajebi to go and gather data, he may not be able to do a good work. We need to have persons who are indigenous of the area, so they know, for instance, the times that the people go to farm, they leave and return in the evening. Because the data gathering is unlike what we do during elections. In population census, So even day-old children are counted. So the counting is very, very important that we get everybody onto the data. There are lots of island communities. If you bring somebody who does not hail from the area, he will not be able to determine some of these islands which are actually inhabited to go and gather the necessary data. And so I want to urge the government statistician, Professor Enim, my senior in school, very seasoned economist, to look at some of these issues that are coming up so that I can give the necessary directives. Let us focus on recruiting people from the various localities so they can actually help in gathering the data that we are looking for. Mr. Speaker, has to do with gathering data on the housing census. I also want to urge the officers who go out to gather information that, unlike before, they should not ignore dilapidated houses. Because very often, sometimes dilapidated houses are rehabilitated or renovated. And so if they don't gather data on seemingly dilapidated houses or structures, and they get rehabilitated after the census data is taken, it will distort planning data for us. Mr. Speaker, the other understanding that I have from my constituency is that some caterers have also been recruited to, as it were, cook for the officers who will go out to the field to work. Again, the report is that they are recruiting persons who don't hail from the district to do the cooking. I also want to urge that we try and get caterers from their respective districts. And we should also not recruit only one caterer to handle over 400 or 500 data entry officers for the period. We should be able to recruit several other caterers and zone the district so that they can handle the cooking. Because if one entity has to distribute food to all the field officers every day, there may be logistic problems. Some persons may get their food early, others may not. I want the government statistician also and his team to take a second look at that arrangement. Mr. Speaker, my last point will be on publicity. Little publicity on this year's census. And considering that we have a couple of days to go, I want to urge government to improve on publicity for the generality of the people to be apprised of the fact that this will happen, and it will happen for about a month, so that they can prepare themselves adequately to participate in being counted. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I thank you for counting me. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Member, your mask, I can't identify you. Yes, please.
All right.
And for the opportunity to contribute the census that is about to take place. Indeed, census is very important. We need to know our real numbers for planning and for development purposes. That is very important. So I'm happy that we are about to undertake yet an important national exercise which has to do with census. First of all, I want to talk about the of enumerators and supervisors. I was part of the agric census. I was the one who was monitoring the upper East region. And we had a lot of issues. To collect data, it is important to always look for quality data. And the quality data you will get will greatly be determined by the quality of the data collected, the enumerators. But unfortunately, in some of the areas, recruitment was not largely determined qualification by quality, but purely partisan. In my constituency, Kumongo, for example, it was very clear that very quality individuals who can do the job were sent away, and people were allowed to be accepted for the exercise. I think moving forward...
Just a minute, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleague here is actually deviating from the statement. He made a statement that the quality of people who are engaged to do the exercise are purely on partisan basis and not based on qualification. And I think that this statement, if he cannot substantiate or prove it, he should just withdraw it and make his contribution.
Yes. Honorable Member, an objection has been raised about a statement you've made. Which statement clearly indicates that there's been some recruitment based on partisan lines, which is what is objecting against. Well, you have evidence to prove that. If you don't, then...
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Have you ever mentioned a party? I have experience from my constituency when people, some of my boys have come to apply for the exercise. At the end of the day, the recruitment is done, and those people have not been able to go through and under the qualification. Whereas some adults who didn't have the qualification that those people have were recruited. All right.
In the first place, have you mentioned any party?
Did I mention any party in the first place? So I didn't say MPP party, I said partisan. All right, so I want to indicate that it is important that we monitor the census, because monitoring is also another issue that we don't take seriously.
Mr. Speaker, he's actually not responding to your directive. He said if he can't actually substantiate, he withdraw. He hasn't done such, and he's continuing with his debate.
All right, thank you very much. To revise my pronouncement. I'm not withdrawing, I'm revising. The perception
Honorable member, you are addressing the chair. And so I did state that if you have evidence, why not bring it up? But if you have no evidence, you should withdraw.
All right, there's evidence in Kuranga. With Mr. Speaker, with your guidance, I withdraw and then indicate that there's a perception out there that it is influenced by partisan. And I think that we need to erase such a perception.
Your earlier statements show that that perception could be a reality, because you said that your voice also applied. And you know the qualifications of your voice. And those your voice were not considered. Now you are talking about your voice, and then some other people's voice have been considered. And so there's a perception of partisanship, because you yourself, you are partisan, and the other person too is likely to be partisan. So you see, you are objecting against something that you yourself, you are indulging in. Your statement, my voice, you know. So let's don't inject partisanship into this matter. I have also statements made from outside. But once we have the opportunity as leaders of our constituents, we should try as much as possible to support to do what is right. So yes, you can refer to that perception. But once we've not got the evidence, you move on to at least call on those doing the recruitment to recruit quality enumerators to do the job. I worked with the census office before, so at least I have an idea about these matters. You may continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for your guidance. I was also mentioning that we need to pay attention to monitoring, because monitoring is important. My experience working on the agric census, I noticed that some of the enumerators, they sat in their convenience corners and then cooked some figures for some households. So if we don't take monitoring seriously, we are likely to be given cooked data that will not help us to achieve the objective of undertaking such an important national exercise. We also have the education, the sensitization, as mentioned by my senior. If we don't do a lot of sensitization, a lot of the enumerators will get to certain households and they will not be successful in administering the data. Because I remember in Upper West, I met with some of the enumerators and they were sharing their experience with me. And one of them told me that he was chased out by a landlord with a cutlass because he insisted that he wasn't going to provide the data. And the gentleman went and returned several times. So he got angry and had to chase him out with the cutlass. So we need to do a lot of sensitization for people to see why we are undertaking such an exercise so that everybody will cooperate in the process. And I also want to urge those who are the frontliners to take into consideration timely delivery of logistics and then what will support the funds that are due to the enumerators. Because there are times people they relax on their job because what is due them is not given. So I will urge that the frontliners, those who are in charge, should make sure that materials are delivered on time, and then what is due those who are working on the project are also delivered on time. I think with these few words, I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to thank the maker of the statement, Honourable Elvis, for this very important statement. Population and housing census certainly will give the country an opportunity to count and know the population of the country and houses across the country, and this will help in national planning and project execution. The slogan for this particular census, which is, and I quote, "You count, get counted," unquote, is very appropriate. Every Ghanaian counts, and so must try and get counted. In so doing, they cannot get counted without the cooperation of stakeholders. So I want to appeal to all stakeholders across the country to take interest in this population and housing census, particularly our traditional leaders, assembly members, unit committee members, and all leaders in their various areas should take interest in making sure that they support the personnel who will be deployed to carry out their duties, so that at the end of the day, the data that will be generated will be up to date, and when used in national planning, it will serve its purpose. I also want to appeal to the Ghana Statistical Service to ensure that the quality of personnel that will be deployed to carry out this exercise, criteria for which they can do the work, they have the necessary skills so that they can carry out this work in such a way that the data that will be generated will be reliable, will be dependable, and can be used for national planning. And lastly, we as members of Parliament certainly will have to get our various constituencies and support other stakeholders so that we can support this exercise so that it becomes a success. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Dr. Neto.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity, and I'd like to commend the maker of the statement and other contributors. Mr. Speaker, as members of Parliament, part of our role is to ensure that we get value for money, and in the process of the conduction of the census and in the aftermath, it would be very important that we can account to the people of Ghana with regards to the levels of transparency and accountability involved in the money spent on doing so. Mr. Speaker, it's laudable that this particular exercise will be undertaken digitally using tablets to collect the data and subsequently store. And as Ghana seems to be racing almost ahead of itself, its data, sensitive information from all our ministries, departments, and agencies and other bodies, not enough is being heard with regards to the drive towards cybersecurity. Mr. Speaker, with regards to the deficit in the number of experts in the country who are capable of ensuring that our data in the digital space, we're not seeing enough being done within the recruitment aspect of things, where at the level of the institutions, there is a drive towards encouraging students to go into cybersecurity for the tertiary level training. There is a huge deficit globally of about 3 million people required in the cybersecurity sector, and I'm sure Ghana is no less part of this when it comes to the deficit with regards to cybersecurity. Mr. Speaker, if people are expected to divulge the details that are required for a data census of this magnitude, there must be that guarantee that our data will be protected with the security that is required for the level of digitization that we are looking at. So, Mr. Speaker, my comment with government to ensure that as we are expected to give full details for the census, the level of security in cyberspace required to protect our data from any kind of attack from within or without the country is actually beefed up on a regular basis, and we have enough trained personnel with the capacity to ensure that our data that is now being kept in cyberspace will be protected, and that will also encourage and protect whatever it is that is given to the government in terms of data. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Honourable members, before we go on, let me invoke Order 40, Rule 3, and direct that sittings be held outside the prescribed period. I so direct. Yes, Honourable Member for Bole Bamboy.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, let me sincerely thank the maker of the statement, Honourable Donko. Very appropriate and very timely. The Speaker source will give us a snapshot of our nation, where we are, who we are, and we are made up, and all of that. It will tell us the numbers we have in terms of female and male children and all the demographics, so that we are able to plan and plan very well. And so the importance of census cannot be overemphasized. It is important to put it out there that census is not for taxation and punitive purposes, and that it is for planning purposes. It is only when we know our numbers that we are able to plan as to how many schools we need to put at where. It is only when we know that is the population of this area that we are able to tell whether or not that community will deserve a clinic, a polyclinic, a hospital, a chip compound, or what have you. It is when we know the data that we are able to decide as to what to do, even when it comes to support in terms of logistics to farmers and what have you. And so the importance of census cannot be overemphasized. Now, Speaker, let us call a spade and not a long spoon. The truth of the matter is that when it comes to recruitment of personnel, this very important national assignment, there's some politicization of it. And if we are serious on this issue, let us open up, get the problems and resolve them, then we move on. I am saying that there is politicization of the recruitment of census officers. I'm saying this because, Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the training that was supposed to take place to train these officers to be able to undertake the exercise could not take place in Daboya, in the North Gonja districts. Why? Because some people walked to the training center and pulled people and said they were NDC people and that they shouldn't be allowed to take part in that exercise. Mr. Speaker, I have evidence here where the Savannah communication officer issued a statement that these people were stopped from the exercise and that training could not take place. And this is enough evidence to show that the issue is being politicized. Again,
Yes, Honourable Member, now I've listened to you, I've listened to your evidence. I want to listen to the leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think you have actually made ruling on this issue when the Member of Parliament for Kumbungu made the same statement to kind of suggest there is politicization on the recruitment exercise. So if he has an evidence on his phone, he should tender it as evidence. So he should tender it and we'll be able to look at it and know that whatever he's saying, whether it's true or not. But if he cannot actually tender it as evidence for us to see, then he should withdraw what he has said. Because I have actually know that people, this recruitment exercise was online, people apply online, and nobody was asked to bring party membership card before you apply for the job. Making this statement and you have that evidence, then you tender it and we'll all see, or else you withdraw the statement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let's listen to the evidence he's relying on.
Mr. Speaker, my colleague on the other side is not getting things right. When MP was talking, he was asked to adduce evidence, and he couldn't get it. So he accepted to withdraw.
Honourable members,
I'm giving you evidence.
Speaker, Honourable member, just a minute. Second Deputy Speaker to take the chair. But before I leave the chair, I received information also from the Nadoli-Kaleo constituency of people who applied online. And the list that was initially prepared got changed along the line, and some names were deleted. And as a result of that, that list could not even be submitted the day where they were expecting it. So they did not get the list to know those who were recruited to even start the exercise. So there are those allegations that we need to draw the attention of the government statistician and the statistical service for them to take action on. And so if you have evidence on it, please kindly produce the evidence. It's not meant to malign any person, but to try as much as possible to make what we're going to do, a national exercise, very credible and the results of high integrity for us to use. So please, if you have evidence, produce the Deputy Speaker to take the chair.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, what evidence is more visible than a situation where a whole training exercise was stopped? Again, leader, if you push me, I'll mention names from your side to buttress my point that there's some politicization of this exercise.
Yes. Proceed. Yes. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, again, I'm saying that in Tamale, in Saga North, the exercise could not take place for two reasons. One, instead of training the people within that district, they were asked to travel to Tamale for the training exercise. And so they said they couldn't travel. So the exercise could not take place. Again, there was also the issue of politicization. This morning, Mr. Speaker, I called the officer responsible for the Damango municipality for this census office. And he told me that indeed he had a challenge. And the challenge was that the names they were extracting from the headquarters was more than what, the numbers they got was more than what they were expecting. And so their responsibility was on him to delete some names. And that actually brought a problem. So these are evidences on the ground. What is important is that we accept these difficulties and see the way we are able to iron out the differences to ensure that we have a credible data. Mr. Speaker, it is also important to take into consideration the people we recruit and ensure that they are indigents. Not all people are educated. Not all people can speak Twi. So if you take somebody from a Twi-speaking background to a locality where he cannot speak Gonja, how is he going to administer this exercise? Again, there are very technical issues that we have to bring on board when we are taking such decisions.
Order, please.
Mr. Speaker, I was a census of some years back, and I was recruited to do the census exercise in my locality. I went to a particular household, and I realized that the man had 2 wives. The second wife got married to the man for more than 15 years and had no issue, no child. And that any time her mind goes back to that.
Hold on. Are you on? Okay, yes. What is it?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to clarify something. He mentioned my constituency's name, Salaganov. Salaganov constituency is just about 7 years old. The district, in fact, is 1.5 years old. The reason the organization was sent to Tamale was the fact that, according to the organizers, they didn't have a facility. And we said no, it is created for a purpose. They should never hold the conference in Tamale, but Salaganov. That was the reason it delayed. This does not have anything to do with discrimination. So I think that it is a misled information, and that needs to be corrected. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member, please take note
this is just to
of
corroborate what I said. It's only what I said. I said there were 2 reasons. If he has found it conveniently to leave one reason and to hang on one reason, that is his business. But what I'm saying is that I have 2 reasons. One is that they wanted to undertake the training exercise outside the district, and they were not happy with that. The other reason is that some perceived NDC members' names were deleted, and that was also an issue. You see, the most important thing is that as stakeholders, let's accept the faults, let's accept the challenges, and work together so that we have a credible data. That is where I'm coming. People pretend that these things are not happening. You take somebody who cannot even write his name very well to go and do this exercise, and the results will be that we will not have any credible data, which means that we have to wait for another 10 years. This is a very important national exercise that we are joking with.
Almost 600 million.
Mr. Speaker, so let me now continue with my points. I'm saying that when it comes to recruitment, let's get people who are indigents. And I was just giving my practical experience where I went to a household. The man was married to 2 wives. For more than 15 years, the second wife never had a child. And any time she recalls that, she weeps. So when I got there, I realized her situation. So instead of interviewing her herself, I rather had to take the information from the husband. When he got to the point where I have to talk about the number of children you have and all that, I didn't ask her. Because if I had asked her after leaving the scene, you just introduce her to weeping and crying. But if I was not an indigent, somebody who understands the environment very well, I would have gone ahead to ask her, how many children do you have? And that would have led to a different thing altogether. So when we are saying that recruit people who are from those communities, it is for the interest of this exercise. And so I think that our police on the other side should not be very defensive. Let us bring out these issues and let's see the way we walk the path that will give us a credible data. Mr. Speaker, let me end by calling on all Ghanaians to take this exercise very, very serious. I'm saying that after this exercise, we have to wait for another 10 years. And so the people of Savannah region, if you are listening, I'm calling on all of you to take this exercise seriously, let us all come out and provide appropriate information so that at the end of the day, we are able to tell the actual numbers of the region. With this, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity, and I thank Honorable Donko for the statement.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr.
Honorable Member for
Wale.
Wale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy that my colleagues have brought this issue to the floor of Parliament. National population and housing census is a very important tool in this country, because as the population keeps growing, we need to enhance national census periodically so that we'll know our number in the country. But my colleague alluded to some statement that it looks like some people are being left out and others are being picked. I have also received a lot of complaints from those specific people that their names have been left out, a lot. So where are we? My colleagues from the other side have been captured, and the other side, my side too, our people are complaining. So it looks like there's a problem all over. So we shouldn't say some people have been left out. Maybe people applied online, and then they use the criteria from the statistics to pick them. And that's what everybody involved in this exercise. So, regard to picking indigenous to do the NIA work, it's true. We need the indigenous to understand the language. But we need national cohesion too. So if you pick somebody from Damongo to go to Walwale to do the work, definitely there are people from Walwale who are also involved in that exercise. So if you are a leader from Damongo, you don't understand the Mamprole, but we have Mamprose people working with you. Recourse to them to help you to do the work. So we are all Ghanaians. So I don't want to say it is selective thing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member for Biome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this very important statement. Census night is just about 24 away from today. And as I listen to colleagues make contribution, we are all very much concerned about publicity. Because for many, they didn't even know that census night is going to be 27th. Possibly until we heard our colleague make this statement on the floor of the House. It is very important that we take publicity very serious, and more should be done in that direction. In the various languages, it will help. Census indeed is a very important national exercise. It is not even a government project, it's a national project. And our Constitution, recognizing the importance of census, has made it possible for some actions or steps to be taken after the census exercise. For example, even review of constituency boundaries sometimes is to be done after census or after 7 years, whichever comes in first. It therefore means that census is an important exercise. Indeed, census is not just for counting Ghanaians, as a colleague submitted earlier. It is counting everybody that will be found within the catchment area on that night. That census assumed that a picture is taken of the country 12 midnight of the census night. So wherever you spent that night, that is where you must be counted. Whether you are an Ivorian, whether you are a Burkinabe, whether you are a Donko, or you are Donko, or whoever you are, where you are found, that is to be counted. Because we are counting everybody. And so it is important we get the understanding. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, the concerns of from this side about the perceived politicization is not something that should just be thrown off, because truly it is happening. And in some ways, Mr. Speaker, it can affect the outcome of the data that will be collected. And that is why my view is that our colleagues on the other side must speak it, and let's together get this national project going on. For example, Mr. Speaker, a young man who was recruited as a DCU, that's District Census Officer, and gone through training. He was in Cape Coast for the training. They finished the training process. He was to sign the agreement. They received a call and asked that, no, that young man should no longer be the District Census Officer. He was moved from Nkwanta North to become a Field Operations Officer in Nkwanta South, just on the consideration that he had acted as a Director of IT for the National Democratic Congress in Nkwanta North. This is a fact. It's a fact that the name of the person, if the House will want, I will submit. So he has to move from Cape Coast training and join the OEB training operation officers. How can we run census this way? A national project. So if colleagues are talking and they haven't given examples, I am giving an example. Where somebody was trained as a district census officer and was dropped just on this condition and moved from his district, Nkwanta North, to Nkwanta South, to become a field operation officer, which I think will not help the exercise. Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member, just hold on. Honourable Leader.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this issue has actually been dealt with by the Speaker. And under Order 94, if the Speaker had actually made a ruling to such effect that you don't have evidence, an example is not an evidence. You understand? By giving that example, it is not an evidence. So for that matter, if you don't have evidence, you don't politicize the whole census process. Because it was an online process, nobody was asked to bring party card. Probably your alleged IT director was not qualified to be the district director. And that's why he was sent to the field. So don't make statements when you don't have evidence to it. If you have the evidence, tender it. And let's see that this is the reason why he was taken. And the call that you are talking about, who made the call and who received the call, tender all to know and move on. So if you don't have any evidence, just withdraw that, and we can all do justice to the population session.
Honourable Member,
Right Honourable Speaker, there is an issue that keeps cropping up in the course of this debate, and it is about evidence. Now, the perception, I think, or the impression is that evidence must necessarily be documentary. But by law, under the Evidence Act, evidence can be oral. And unless you are impeaching the credibility of the person who is giving the evidence, you cannot say that that evidence should not be admitted by Mr. Speaker. In fact, oral evidence is admitted by courts of law, as the Honourable Atachia will testify. And so in this House, there's always this whole issue about, can you produce the evidence? And especially when members are up on their feet and raising issues bordering on either breach of law or breaches of the Constitution, you cannot ask that person to bring evidence. For instance, the issue that is being raised here is about discrimination on the basis of political affiliation. The persons who are being denied work as census officers are being so denied because of their affiliation to a particular political party. That is an infringement of the Constitution. And this is something that this House must take very seriously, Mr.
Honourable
Speaker.
Member, well noted. I think you still give the opportunity to Honourable Kofi Adams to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Another issue of concern that this House must seriously raise is the issue of engaging persons with local knowledge as enumerators. I have been an enumeration officer before. In the year 2000, when we did the first one, I took part. Sometimes you get to a particular household, and the reference information that the person you are enumerating will give you is related to an incident that happened in that locality. So if you bring someone outside of that locality who does not know or has not got much information about that occurrence, it becomes very difficult for the person to be able to predict the date of birth, and by so doing the age of the person he or she is enumerating. So it is very important that in considering enumeration officers especially, we must have who are within the catchment area that will of course understand some major occurrences that persons will be using, persons to be enumerated who do not know their dates of birth or age will be using as reference point to aid in calculating their ages when doing the enumeration, especially when we are going to be using tablets. Mr. Speaker, when we were doing it manually, even mistakes were being made, and sometimes we have the chance to correct. When the Electoral Commission even does its registration, you first fill a manual form and take it to the officer to enter into the system. Even on an exhibition, you find mistakes. This one, they are going to capture the data directly into the tablets. And so, when some mistakes are made, the person being enumerated may not even be IT compliant or cannot even read and write. So they have even no chance of confirming and correcting, and that mistake can be carried along. That is why in recruiting enumerators, we must consider competence and not the person's political persuasion or where he or she actually comes from. Partisanship has allowed some qualified persons to be thrown out. That must not be a key consideration in recruiting persons for this exercise. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, leadership.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I think leadership will just one more, and leadership will conclude. Is that right? Yeah.
So leadership. So you are yielding your position to a member.
I thought, Mr. Speaker, you suggested that
Honourable
we allow
member, hold on.
one each from before we come to sum up.
Yes, Honourable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a lot have been said about the recruitment process and the importance of the census exercise. This year, it's gratifying that because of COVID, we are now doing it this year. Mr. Speaker, in 2010, we spent 74 million Ghana cedis in undertaking the census exercise. Every resource spent there's an alternative forgone for every resource spent. This year, we are spending 521 million Ghana cedis to undertake the census exercise. What data are we collecting? Are we going to collect by the end of the exercise? it is very important, as other speakers have stated, that we get to collect the best of data so that the alternative foregone may not be wasted. For instance, if you are going to spend 521 million Ghana cedis and the quality of enumerators, and more especially supervisors, are not, then the nation better spend the resource in other areas. Last week, the president issued the launch of the 30-day to the Census Night program. The Minister of Finance stated that out of the 521 million cedis, 467.2 million cedis have already been disbursed to the National Secretariat of the GSS, Ghana Statistical Service. We all know that, we are also aware that the publicity has not been the best. But this amount of money has been disbursed. So I am appealing to the Ghana statistician and the Ghana Statistical Service to increase their publicity, use both the social media and the traditional media, especially make sure that the enumerators, the field supervisors, the senior field supervisors, and the census officers in the various census districts are up to the game, so that this quantum of 521 million Ghana cedis will not go the drain, and that we will realize the benefits of the census and the counting of the people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Yes, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to add my voice to the statement that was ably delivered by one of our colleagues, Honourable Donko. And it is so important, that has been so buttressed by many, that the exercise is such an important one that all out there must understand and know details about it and also support the process. But it looks like the publicity, as has been well articulated, hasn't been well grounded. This whole exercise is about how government allocates resources. Because in any particular area, there may be the need for some projects to be undertaken. The magnitude of it and the impact all must be assessed, analyzed, will depend on the numbers and the characteristics of the particular persons that are targets. And all these are very vital information for planning purposes. And definitely, if all in this country are not grounded on the exercise, we might end up not collecting the data we are all yearning for. Or we might end up collecting data that might not even support the process of planning. And so there's a need, and the process is so vital. Publicity that has been well articulated is something that is lacking. And I don't know what government is doing to involve the NCC that are located in all communities and constituencies and districts. Currently, as I speak to you, Mr. Speaker, the NCC is not so involved on the ground to go to the people and tell them all important exercise that is coming, to be able to even inform them on the various dates and then their availability to be counted and etc. All of these are not there. There's one thing that I must commend the government association about is the issue that came up strongly that indicated sort of the desocialization of the airways, where we all spoke about. I think to an extent we are seeing some disaggregation in that regard, with and etc. also included, but they must do a thorough work. Mr. Speaker, going forward with the recruitment exercise, I also have an evidence in my constituency that wasn't so transparent. Many who actually applied with the requisite qualification, who actually have undertaken this same exercise before, and so with that experience, I'm sure they'll be able to do and discharge responsibilities properly, have been dropped for a reason best known to whoever took the decisions. And so these are all the reasons why I think many have spoken so eloquently on the matter, and I think there's a need for the government suggestion and all who are involved in this whole exercise of recruiting people, the enumerators, do so in a more transparent way. And more in particular, I mean, why do you send somebody to an area who is unable to communicate properly? And so what did I even call it? I have heard people say because it is in English. English, all right, but then you may go to some places that people don't speak English. And so how are you going to collect your data? And so there's the need to always give particular interest to those, the indigents, those who live in the particular area, the geographical area, involve them more and get your accurate data for your planning purposes. And I think that is very key and very, very, very important. The last that I want to talk on is the caterers, Mr. Speaker. Those who are responsible to cook for the narrators, they are being recruited from Accra. Whereas in some communities, I mean, we have caterers in all districts. I mean, there are those who have applied to be caterers to cook for these narrators from our various districts. But they end up being, shortlisted, they're being thrown out, and then we see people coming from Accra to become the caterers and all that. These definitely do not engender the sort of coercion and all that. Whereas, I mean, many who have spoken have articulated eloquently. I don't want to think that there is a need for me to repeat the submissions that have been made with the evidence that have supported some of the claims. I believe the government suggestion should listen and make sure between now and when we have the census night and subsequent, the right things are done, involve the institutions that matter, so that we can end up getting the right things done for our own betterment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Majority Deputy Whip.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. And I thank the maker of the statement, Honorable Doko. Mr. Speaker, the population and housing census, this one is very important because it's not like only population, but there is housing census to attach to this. Concerns raised by members, just like any other national exercise, cannot actually go without any problems or lapses. But there is massive improvement on this year's population and housing census as compared to that of 2010. You will realize that for the first time, 21 population and housing census, the recruitment exercise was done online, and people or applicants who are interested were encouraged to apply online. And thereafter, they were shortlisted, and then collection of the data is actually not to be done manually, as previously done, as tablets or small handheld tablets will be provided to data collectors, to various communities and towns, to be able to get accurate data for the exercise. It is not something that any of us, or in the interest of any of us, if we don't have accurate data. Because at the end of the day, apart from it leading into government knowing the number of adults and working class that might be taxed, it also leads to other districts, being elevated to municipalities and other municipalities, if any, to get into metropolis. And if possible, that data too can also lead to the creation of constituencies. So we are all worried and we are all interested in the accuracy of the data that is to be collected. And like I did indicate, it is not like any other national issues or any other national exercises that we all wish it goes without any problems.
So on this, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the maker of the statement and also encourage my colleagues that every national exercise, if we begin and start to point fingers at those who are supposed to do the exercise on political lines, it is not going to help and will not bring beauty to the exercise. It is something that we all ought to encourage the Ghana Statistical Service and the unit of the population and housing census under it, that they have actually been able to do well. And we also call on them to improve on their exercise, because there's a massive improvement from 2010 to 2021 population and housing census. On these new few words, Mr. Speaker, I thank the maker of the statement. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. There's another statement, and the statement is on human capital destruction in Ghana through an unending road accidents on the Tamale, Bupe, Kintampo, Techiman Highway. This statement was put up by a member for Kintampo North, Honorable Joseph Kwame Kuma. Honorable member, if you are here, you may take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this permission to have this statement. Mr. Speaker, it is with great sadness that I rise to make this statement to bring to the fore, once again, the issue of road accidents. This issue has become a canker that will not just go away unless we take concrete steps to address it. Before I proceed, let me extend my sympathies and condolences to persons who have lost relatives and loved ones to road accidents, especially within and from the Kintampo municipality in recent times. Mr. Speaker, just this past Sunday, 31st of May, 2021, a Burkinabe registered trailer carrying onions veered into the Kintampo township and 3 Sanyong buses were crushed. As if that is not enough, just at the gateway to Kintampo from the Tamale side to the toll booth, a tomatoes truck, because of potholes there, landed, and at the same point, because of potholes, a car carrying another vehicle carrying plywoods also veered off the road and landed at the same point. Mr. Speaker, according to the World Health Organization, globally, more than 1.2 million people lose their lives yearly through road crashes. These fatalities, 70% occur in developing countries. Statistics from our National Road Safety Commission show that since 2004, road crashes on average have claimed more than 5 lives every day. Cumulatively, over 46,000 Ghanaians have been killed in road accidents nationwide within the last 28 years. Mr. Speaker, the disaggregated figures from the Motor Traffic and Transport Department of Ghana Police Service revealed that 2,076 in 2017, 2,020 in 2018, 2,284 in 2019, and 2,310 by November 2020. This represents a 3% annual growth in road crash fatalities since 2017. While this is bad enough, it is even more alarming when these numbers are broken down into demographic lines. Mr. Speaker, Blanson and Latte 2020 reports that 60% of Ghanaian traffic fatalities involve children and young persons below 35 years. Mr. Speaker, Kintampo municipality is located at the center of our country, and it is down mainly because of the famous Kintampo Fula Waterfalls, Kunsu Slaves Cave, and so on and so forth. The municipality also serves as the major transit point between the north and south of our country, with haulage trucks and passenger buses plying its highway daily. As a result, road traffic along this stretch of the road is a critical and unavoidable route, as it is known. Mr. Speaker, in view of the busy nature of this stretch of road traffic accidents have become a perennial occurrence in Kintampo North constituency. The constituency has often been in the news and far becoming known for road accidents, probably than its tourism and other potentials, a situation that is very unfortunate to the municipality. According to MTT data, 79 crashes, 30 deaths, 255 injured persons in 2017. In 2018, 2019, and 2020, a total of 106 and 96 crashes were recorded, respectively. Most of these crashes involve commercial vehicles. Mr. Speaker, the House will remember a few of these unfortunate incidents. In early hours of Friday, 22nd March 2019, at Amomankwanta on the Tamale Kintampo Highway, a gruesome crash claimed the lives of 70 passengers. Almost a year later, on Monday, 9th March 2020, a U-turn bus and minis collided between Dawadawa No. 2 and Kawampe, resulting in burning beyond recognition 30 persons. Again, 2 days later, another glory accident that claimed 31 lives. Mr. Speaker, several causes have been cited for road accidents. These include driver fatigue, poor nature of roads, carelessness, gross indiscipline, faulty vehicles, unskilled drivers, inadequate road signs, and mention as many as we have. According to Mr. Speaker, the fight against road accidents will require an integral approach, looking at the serious nature of this national issue. I wish to recommend that the government forms an interministerial action group on road accidents, consisting of representatives from the Interior Ministry, Ministry of Roads and Highways, Ministry of Transport, and Ministry of Health. This will create a platform for coordinating government effort in minimizing these accidents through the implementation of recommended mitigation measures. Parliament should take interest in the work of such a body to ensure that we do not pay lip service to our commitment to fighting this issue, which hits almost every household or family in the country. Secondly, I propose the setting up of accident emergency centers across the country, especially in accident-prone areas such as Kintampo North, taking into consideration its relative remoteness to both Tamale and Komfo Anochi Teaching Hospital. These centers will be specifically dedicated to road accidents, equipped and staffed appropriately to swiftly deal with accidents when they occur. In addition, I wish to state that there is an urgent need to increase the number of doctors and specialists for trauma cases in Kintampo Municipal Hospital. As the current doctor-patient ratio is woefully low and unable to accommodate increasing accident cases, the MTTD unit be given at least 2 pickups to support inadequate ambulance service within the municipality, since when such happens, it becomes a difficulty for injured people to be moved because most of the private cars do not want to help. And you can imagine the life that we could have saved if they were moved early to the hospital facilities. Mr. Speaker, going forward, government should also consider a doable solution of dualizing the road to minimize head-on collision. And in this regard, Mr. Speaker, I finally plead that as a matter of emergency, there be an immediate measure of instituting a mandatory stop for about 45 minutes for all long-distance travelers. Those who load from Accra to Paga, those who load from Accra to Sandema, we note them by their ticket and let them stop for about 45 minutes to rest before they continue. Because driver fatigue, I'm sure, accounts for most of these accidents. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I suggest the immediate marking of highways and replacement of lost and faded road signs. Mr. Speaker, while thanking you for the opportunity and my colleagues for lending me their ears, I pray my statement will reignite the national debate on this urgent issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member, for tamering off. Hey, Kintamponov, I'm sorry. Yes. Honorable Member, what's your constituency? Oh, the lady.
My name is Lydia Lamisha Kambaba, Timpani constituency.
Okay. Your contribution.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this all-important statement. The causes of accidents on the Kintampo-Tamale Bolgatanga route has already been mentioned, and therefore I do not want to spend time regurgitating what has been already discussed. I think the issue of accidents on that road has a cause to complain. If you look at it, even from January to February alone, online news portal reported that we had about 46 road accidents on that road and 570. It therefore means that we need to look at that road seriously. That road links the main Accra-Kumasi road to the northern part of the country. It serves Tamale, Bolgatanga, Boku, Zibila, Timpani, Sandema, Garuk. And most of the people who ply that road are people from these constituencies. And as a member of parliament from that constituency, I think it is time for us to all put our hands together and see what government can do for us to reduce, if not stop it completely. It has a lot of economic implications. Mr. Speaker, road transport injury causes considerably economic losses to individuals, family, and the nation as a whole. These losses arise from the cost of treatment as well as loss of productivity for those killed or disabled by their injuries, and for family members who need to take time off or school to care for their injured people. World Health Organization project on road traffic accident crashes estimate that it costs every country, or it costs the whole world, 3% of our gross domestic product. The National Road Authority in 2017 indicated that Ghana spent more than 1.2 trillion cedis annually on road traffic accidents. The traffic accident means that 1.6% of the country's gross domestic product per annum is channeled into solving road traffic accident injuries. Mr. Speaker, the road accident fatalities and injuries are high among the youth, who are our working force in the country. This means that the human resource of the country suffers a great deal. Most people who perish in road traffic accidents are in the working class. The World Health Organization projected that road traffic accidents are leading to cause of death for children and young adults aged between 5 and 45 years. Mr. Speaker, not to belabor all the points that we have mentioned, given the cause of road traffic accidents, the burden on road traffic crashes in Ghana requires a consensuous and multi-sectorial approach to reduce its occurrence and impact, while policies need strengthening and enforcing at all levels. The impact of road traffic has the need to be mitigated by efficient emergency systems, as well as policies which support care of victims. However, at the primary health level, implementation of road traffic rules and regulations is key. As discussion on road traffic accident and vehicle safety are broadened, road traffic safety should be concerned to all stakeholders. Both motorists and pedestrians are at risk of hazards of road traffic accidents. Mr. Speaker, following the morbidity and mortality of accidents in Ghana, there is the need to look at the road traffic accident as a more public health problem and priority that requires prompt tackling using a public health approach oriented and measures than just a safety problem as it is currently being. Mr. Speaker, not to talk about most of the issues that he has raised, we need, as a matter of urgency, to note that the major roads, notably the intercity and interregional roads, are not dualized. The carnage on the Kintampo Tamale Bolgatanga Highway is partly due to the narrow nature of the road. Whilst I agree with the dualization of the roads are expensive, if government had continued with the road project, like His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, we would have made significant strides in this area. Mr. Speaker, in the interim, institutions involved in ensuring safety on our roads must be up and doing. One, the driver and vehicle license authority must ensure that people who have acquired the appropriate driving training is given a license. In addition, vehicles should be properly examined to ensure they are in good shape before roadworthiness certificate is issued. The police and the MTTDs are for a matter should do work diligently, especially in the area of drunk driving. I hope with these few words, Mr. Speaker, the government will be up and doing to make sure that the road from Kintampo to Bolgatanga and other parts of the country is worked on to make sure that people traveling from Accra, Kumasi, and other parts of the country to Boku, to Timpani, my constituency, Garu, Zibila, Sandiman, and other parts of Inland and Upper West region is safe to travel. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes, Honorable Member for Abuakwa South.
To contribute to this very important statement, which transcends the geography of reference. It's not only in the north, which is going through what I call a strong threat to our safety and our livelihoods, but in the entire country, the issue of road accidents should engage us, and we should take quality steps to prevent road accidents. There's a comparison I've heard, which is most embarrassing, and I don't know whether they have scientific basis for it or not, which is that COVID is not as death-threatening as road accidents, which is to say that people die on the roads more than the COVID-19. That is an awful shame for a country that our resources are limited. Honorable Speaker, what I have to say is in the human dimension. I do not know why anybody in his right mind can believe that he would drive from Accra to the north without taking a rest. It's a feat that I believe is more of an appetite for profit rather than due regard for human life. You will be physically tired. When you get physically tired, you will doze off. And when you doze off, you endanger individuals. It's as simple as that. So that it is important that we should enact laws that there can never be any long-distance driving when human beings are involved, passenger driving, that the drivers are not bound by law to take a rest. It's very, very important. I have even heard that where it is said that there is no need for a rest, then there should be two drivers, one who is sleeping and the other driving. And then once they need to change over, the one who is waking up will continue the whole process. We should look at this. Right, Honorable Speaker, the problem I also have is what is the quality of passenger trucks and vehicles on our roads, and who polices that? It's so important. If you think that there is some rickety vehicle, which if you want to cut cassava with your rickety vehicle, it might permit you. But when human lives are involved, what is the integrity of the vehicle ties? And who checks whether the kind of vehicle ties or the brake system in the vehicle is reliable enough to send people to their preferred destinations? Honorable Speaker, I think the maker of the statement is alive to his responsibilities, and some of these matters refer to the committees of Roads and Transport, as well as Defense and Interior, so that we do our proper oversight. And all the licensing agencies. Is it a matter of paying money, or we being sure that you don't license a vehicle that can endanger, human beings? Until we do these things, the policeman on the road, who is more interested in coins than checking what he's supposed to check. What is the sanction regime that if 15 people should die and the driver is alive? What is the sanction regime? We need to look at the sanction regime and punish people who treat human beings as abandoned. With these few words, I thank you for indulging me. Right, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I thought we referred to the leadership. Okay, Honorable Member, you may.
Okay, I'm taking a cue from him that we should.
Hold on. Honorable Member, you are on your feet. But be snappy, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to use this opportunity to align myself with the maker of this statement. It couldn't have come any time than this particular moment. I'm saying this because at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, you'll get to understand what I mean by that. Road carnage is a serious matter in Ghana. The physical, psychological, and emotional trauma, especially when one is directly in it. Mr. Speaker, you cannot imagine it. We agree that the causes of road accidents, to a large extent, people say it is indiscipline on our roads. We agree to that because people drink and drive, people get tired and they drive, people overspeed and they drive, And these are some of the causes of road accidents, as we all know. But, Mr. Speaker, I think that the most important one has to do with the regulations and people who are in authority, people who are supposed to ensure that we are safe on the roads. Mr. Speaker, if you drive on our roads, especially the Kintampo Road up to the north, even in parts of Accra, nice that you drive, get to a point, there's a curve, and there's no signage for you to know that there's a curve on the road. The regulatory signages are not there, signs are not there, the warning signs are not there, the informative signs are not there. Mr. Speaker, the culture of maintenance is not there. These are so pervasive in our economy, so pervasive on our roads. The potholes are there, maintenance culture is an issue. So, Mr. Speaker, I think that besides the discipline that we are talking about, it is important we hold people responsible for some of these things. Recently, some medical students were involved in an accident in TED. Mr. Speaker, that wasn't the first time we recorded an accident on that particular road. 4 years ago, 4 students, foreign students, were involved in an accident there, and they all died. Mr. Speaker, this didn't wake up the authority of the university. On that stretch of the road, it's a sharp curve, there's no speed ramp, there's no sign for you to know that, look, you are approaching a curve, slow down. Mr. Speaker, the indiscipline is not only on the road users, but people who have the authority to ensure the roads. And this, we have to take it seriously as Parliament. We have to make sure that people who are given the responsibility to ensure that we are safe on our roads, when they flout, there should be appropriate sanctions. And I align with my honorable member for Abaka, who said the punishment regime must be overhauled. And we look at that and make sure that people get serious with the job they are given to do. Mr. Speaker, I think that as a body, we have to agree, we have to have a concerted effort to make sure that the regulatory bodies, those who are supposed to make sure that we are safer on our road, are brought to Parliament, and certain clear-cut actions are agreed on them, so that we all make sure that accidents, we don't say that, oh, they were overspeeding. If you know that the road is smooth and there's a curve there, what do? Put a speed ramp there, put a road sign there for people to know that you are approaching a curve. On this note, Mr. Speaker, when this accident happened, I got a chance to meet the university authorities, and I told them within a matter of 1 week, I want to see people working on that road to put the signages there and make sure that there were speed ramps, so that would have been the last accident ever recorded on that stretch. Mr. Speaker, I want to use this opportunity to also thank the leadership of this House, both sides. They were very supportive. They showed solidarity. My constituents showed solidarity. Mr. Speaker, the medical student who died was my first son, Yusuf Seydou. That's my first son who passed in that accident. So the emotional trauma, I'm experiencing it as I'm talking to you. So it is not easy. Let's try to have a concerted effort and make sure that when people are given responsibility and they are not doing it, as Parliament, we hold them here and make sure that the right thing is done. And that is how we get our human capital. You can imagine somebody who was just there with 2 years to become a medical doctor. Look at what we have lost. The state has spent money to train him. The parents have spent money to train him. Mr. Speaker, so this is a very serious matter, and I think as a house, let's do something about it. Let's change the punishment regime and make sure that people are brought to book. Those who are given authority to do job, they do the job with diligence, they do the job with seriousness. It cannot be business as usual. On this note, Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Honorable members, leadership. So 1-1, you can yield it to somebody else from your caucus. So, write a member for, is it Mason Kwanta?
Yes, please.
Yes, on behalf of majority leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving this opportunity to make few comments in addition to what my colleagues have said already. Mr. Speaker, we talk of accidents to be unforeseen, uncertain, or in some cases, uncontrollable. But in our case, most accidents can be foreseen. Most accidents can be certain and can be controlled. Few instances, you may see some road ramps built to control speed, but you may see that those road ramps are not having any sign or reflectors. So if you're a first user and not a regular user, you see that you are in trouble. So on that basis, the road ramps are good for those who are regular users, but not first-time users. Secondly, there are some instances where you get some places, it's very dark, and you don't see any traffic lights there. Even if traffic lights are in the cities and towns, when it comes to places where it used to be very dark, but particularly where you have forests, and you don't have road lights there, the traffic lights there, driving in such places becomes very difficult. And such places, you can see that causing accident is very simple. These issues should be looked at. At the same time, when you look at our road shoulders, you see some places where the users, the pedestrians, may park certain things in the roads or the shoulders. So in case of any emergency, and you're not a regular user of that road, you see that the person will run into trouble, particularly where you have without reflectors or any warning sign. It tells you that some of these cases is our making. Then you look at our drivers. You may be driving at distance without taking rest. You feel that you are sleeping. Some of us, you may notice that when you are driving long distance, you get tired, which means that you have to rest. But at times, we challenge ourselves to continue, particularly when it comes to the passenger drivers, because they want to go and get down, come back, they will speed without taking rest. So if in these cases, we are able to establish rest stops, where regular monitoring by the MTTU unit of the police force are making regular checks to make sure that those who are traveling at a distance at certain rest stops, they have to be forced to rest some few minutes, like say 5 or 10, and continue. In that case, the certainty of having accident can be reduced. And to make the last submission concerning the MTTU regular monitoring and evaluation of cars and those things, it looks like it's becoming common practice, where instead of checking the cars about the defaults and their roadworthiness, it has turned out to be something like a bargain, where exchanges are made in different ways. In this case, Mr. Speaker, it is certain that we are not sure about checking accident. If the highways, if the MTTU, if the drivers and users of the roads are taking caution to take some steps to be efficient users, be cautious of all these things, I believe we can reduce the road accidents in this country. Mr. Speaker, to conclude, I want the House to invite the Ghana highways to see how regular they are putting forward certain rules and mechanisms to ensure that our roads are safe to drive on, particularly when you are a first user, to ensure that we reduce the accident occurrence in this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. let me finally give the shot to Honorable Member for Adakru, who incidentally is the ranking member for Roads and Transport and is representing the minority leadership.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this statement. I commend my colleague who made the statement and other colleagues who also contributed. Mr. Speaker, this is not the first time has been made regarding carnage on our roads in this House, and I'm sure it will not be the last. Mr. Speaker, road accidents do occur even in advanced countries. However, if we were all to drive within speed limit on a particular stretch of road, chances are that even if you have road crashes, the impact will be less than what we see currently. Mr. Speaker, it will interest you to note that between January and March this year alone, more people died on our road than all the people that died out of COVID since 2019. See, look at the way this country, the whole world, was agitated and concerned about the number of people that die out of COVID. But the truth is that in our country, more people died in 3 months more than COVID. How come this is not an issue as important to us than like COVID? Mr. Speaker, secondly, particularly 3 months into this year, we are told that over 2,400 vehicles were involved in an accident, which are commercial vehicles, another 2,700 private, and 500 motorcycles. Mr. Speaker, these numbers all reflect human beings, some of who are not here, some of who are maimed and can never work, and other things. The staggering number, though, is that in 2020, over 20,000 vehicles were involved in road crashes, and 12,400 people are injured on this road. But, Mr. Speaker, let's look at the reasons. The MTTD tells us quite clearly the reason for the carnage on our road is indiscipline, human error. Mr. Speaker, it's not difficult. On Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if you were to drive on any highway, you see a hyper driver who is either on a substance or drunk or things that anybody in the queue ahead of him hasn't got anything to do. So it is his right to get home earlier than anybody else. So they take the wrong route at speed. If anybody brings out his head, there's a road crash. So it is about indiscipline. You can build all the roads in this country into dual carriage and everything. If indisciplined drivers are on the road, that is, drive because this area is an area with schools, drive at 30, you are driving at 60. Mr. Speaker, would the road condition stop you from having a road crash there? No, it wouldn't. Because you're supposed to drive 30 or 50 in a particular area, on a particular... People have even forgotten that the motorway even have a speed limit on it. And by the way, that's just 100 kilometers per hour. But let's find somebody, let's go and put, somebody at the end of the motor or middle right now and see. 160, 120, because everybody is looking at, this car, they said, can do 200 kilometers per hour, so everybody wants to test it. But the truth is that it's illegal. Mr. Speaker, the other one is this. I am sure that in the morning, Monday morning, if you were to stand at the beginning and the end of the motorway, you will see a policeman who is driving himself on a phone, a mobile phone. You'll probably see a colleague here from this house who will be driving on the phone. You probably see a minister of state. And so the indiscipline has become widespread. In other countries, when you are caught driving with your phone near your ear, Mr. Speaker, that is either 6 points off your license and on the spot fine. But this place, so like somebody says, it becomes a bargain between you and the policeman. Interestingly, Mr. Speaker, the Ghanaian is very law-abiding when they are outside of this country. But once we are in our own country, we fail to abide by the rule. Mr. Speaker, so if we can work on the indiscipline, drivers on substance, on alcohol, overspeeding, and then secondly, Mr. Speaker, the road condition is also bad. Sometimes drivers want to maneuver a pothole, and unfortunately, they get themselves into trouble. Mr. Speaker, indeed, if you are somebody who plies a particular road, you would have noticed that there's a particular area which is not good enough. So if you drive within a certain limit, you'll be able to maneuver that better. Mr. Speaker, the road condition situation changes even if it rains. It could be a road that is good, but if it's raining, we are all told that if you are supposed to do a 50 and it's raining, you need to reduce that speed because the time it will take you to stop if you meet an obstacle. All these things are things that we learn when we are doing the theory part of the driving. But the day you get your license, you think that it's a license to commit all the things that you think are part of your right. Mr. Speaker, but this House took a decision. Indeed, series of statements were read in this House. That is why I included, Mr. Speaker, we brought the National Road Safety Commission Act back to this House and changed the Act into a National Road Safety Authority, giving them more powers and other things so that they will be able to manage these things in collaboration with MTTD better. As we speak, since the ministry is unable to bring the regulations and others to activate the various parts of the Act that will make MTTD and the National Road Safety act properly. And much of it, Mr. Speaker, is because of funding. Are you aware that by the law we passed, by today, the National Road Safety Authority is supposed to have offices in every district by now? Every district by now. But why are they not there? Because of funding. Because they are largely funded through the road fund. And as you are aware, road fund is heavily capped by the finance minister. That capping of road fund is very, very bad. In fact, it's counterproductive because monies that are meant to address these things, you take it and you put it into consumption. At the end of the day, the problem remains there. So, Mr. Speaker, we can improve the conditions on our road. Mr. Speaker, what can we do? Of course, we are never going to be able to build all the roads into dual carriage because motorway is dual carriage, yet we still have accidents on it. But even if we do that, we still have to be disciplined to be able to keep the roads safe. Driver training and retraining. Mr. Speaker, in this country, I am not aware that, I've never even heard a judge who actually prosecutes a miscreant driver and says that you are supposed to lose your license, go back and take a whole test in terms of theory and everything before you get your license back. But in other countries, once you lose a certain number of points on your license, automatically you have to go back and take the theory and the practical test before you get your license back. Should we not be doing those things in this country? Mr. Speaker, so that's about driver training and retraining. Mr. Speaker, the issue about drivers getting tired on the way, that is partly true. But Mr. Speaker, it should be the responsibility of the state to pass a law like my colleague said, that if a driver is moving from Tema to Boku, we should ensure we don't have only one driver. Interestingly, in this country, most people travel on road, but there's more regulation on the airlines than the people at the road. For instance, if you travel from maybe Dubai to New York, 13 hours, you don't see only one pilot, flying the airplane. There could be 3. So if we know that the driver is driving from Tema to Boku, it should be mandatory that somebody stops you and say, where are you going? I'm going to Boku. How many of you are in this car? I'm alone. Park until you find a second driver. You are not going anywhere. I think that one also can help. Then, Mr. Speaker, there's also another part. We can't stop accidents. We should have the systems to be able to help people. On our major roads, we need better emergency services coordination. Yes, every constituency have got an ambulance now. But in many cases, you hear people say, when I take the patient from the accident scene, where am I taking the patient to? If there's not enough places to take the person to, the person can't get all the services he needs in the ambulance. What if the person needs to be on an ICU or something like that? So, Mr. Speaker, we need to invest more in our healthcare. But, Mr. Speaker, what we can do in this House, we've done part of it, which is to change the law. We are encouraging the Transport Minister to be able to come to the House with the necessary regulations to actualize the parts of the new law we've given him so that we can enforce part of the law and make our roads safer to our brother and all those who have passed on. As we've said, more people have died in our roads within the last 3 months than all the people that died of COVID since 2019. Mr. Speaker, this is a national emergency. We must all respond to it. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, I think this statement is a very, very important statement. And I don't think we will do ourselves good if we gloss over this statement. So many issues have been raised from the statement. Those who have contributed have also raised certain issues, especially those with respect to human factors. I'm therefore inclined to refer this particular statement to the Committee on Roads and Transport, as well as Committee on Defense, to look into this matter and refer back to the House. We'll give timelines of 2 weeks. Now that probably the vetting of the deputy ministerial positions are going on, we'll give them 2 weeks to report back to the House, so that you engage the stakeholders, the ministers, the road safety, and those kind of things. And let's see how best we can, from our end, we can address this particular issue. On that matter, we bring the statement time to a close, and I will invite leadership to give me indications as to what to do.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Number 5, 6, 7, and 8. That is the private member motion. Leadership are still in with the various people involved, so we'll decline on this statement, and I think 9 is just notice on committee. So, Mr. Speaker, we are in your hands. So, if there's nothing more, we can adjourn till tomorrow.
Yes, Honorable Available Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I agree with the leader who just spoke, and I think we are entirely in your hands.
Honorable members, on that note, we accordingly adjourned today's sitting till tomorrow, Thursday, 3rd of June, 2021, at 10 o'clock in the forenoon. I thank you very much for your attention.